So I would encourage people to take this student outreach and student outreach orientation too. And also I would connect them with peer connection. So they would actually be well versed with making notes and everything, which they had forgotten in online lecture because they could go over the recorded lecture during that time. Also, navigation campus would be difficult for them and going to the building. And so there's where I could help them with getting to know the campus next. Also, I would encourage student involvement by encouraging them to join different articles on campus and joining their multicultural groups which can help them.
Same question over here. You have a chance to respond.
So as we transition to class mode and hybrid classes, there'll be some students who will face unique challenges who are not familiar with the on-campus academic culture. So I plan to solve this issue by meeting with the Academic Senate and the Academic Affairs Committee and creating workshops and programs that will basically help them transition to the university. These programs can include some basic workshops or information sessions or other resources designed to help them navigate through the academic environment. And that's it.
Royal, yeah.
Well, thank you for your question. As a candidate for the Director of Academic Affairs, I understand that the transition to in-person and hybrid class can be challenging for students who are unfamiliar with on-campus academic culture. Some of the unique challenges that students may face include navigating new schedules, adjusting to different classroom environments, and adapting to the social aspects of campus life. If elected, I plan to collaborate with academic departments, faculty, and staff to create program and initiative that addresses these challenges. This includes providing academic support, hosting workshop and events, and promoting open communication with faculty and staff. I'm dedicated to ensuring that all students have the necessary resources and support to succeed academically and personally.
I'll allow 30 seconds for a rebuttal.
I wanted to rebut this statement.
Okay.
So I wanted to know which kind of workshops specifically would you aim on organizing, as you mentioned, Nikhar?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
So the kind of workshops I think will be the workshops which help students to know the resources that are available on campus, and meetings or the programs which let the new students know whom to reach when they are in some doubt or are facing a particular issue.
So I have this question. Consider the following situation. A student files a grievance with the Academic Affairs Committee stating that the professor has graded their research paper in an unfair manner. The professor used Turnitin to check plagiarism. However, the software detected certain parts of the paper as containing plagiarism, which in truth had been cited and paraphrased with reliable sources. So in this case, what would be your response to this situation? That's for me.
Oh, that was for me. Wow, okay. So I believe there are steps after if there's an unfair judgment and the step goes it goes above the academic advisor, we would probably talk with the academic advisor, the student, and the professor will schedule probably a meeting with the academic advisor. And if the student feel uncomfortable, even there, they can go above it to certain administration and can probably, go forward there.
Allow everybody.
Sure. I don't.
No.
On to question 2. I'll start on this side. How do you plan on reaching out to students to hear their academic needs when some will be on campus and some will be off campus? And what might that effort look like?
Well, I believe that it is crucial to engage with students both on campus and off campus to hear their academic needs. To achieve this, I plan on implementing a multi-pronged approach. This includes utilizing social media platforms to create polls and surveys, hosting virtual office hours to receive feedback and ideas, and partnering with academic departments to host town hall meetings. Furthermore, I plan to work closely with campus organization to gather feedback from diverse group of students. I'm committed to ensuring that every student has a voice and that their concerns are heard. Moreover, I collaborate with the University Technology and Communication Department to ensure that all students have equal access to information and resources regardless of their location. My goal is to create collaborative and inclusive environment where every student feels heard and rephrased in decision-making process.
So to hear the academic needs of the students, I'll use variety of methods to reach out to both on-campus and off-campus students. This may include hosting virtual meetings, doing online surveys, and starting social media campaigns. I'll also work with the student government and other student orgs to gather feedback from students and ensure that students' voices are being heard. The key here will be to create a multi-channel communication system, which allows both on and off-campus students to put their voice forward and give a way for open and transparent communications. By doing so, I think I'll ensure that we are meeting all the academic needs of the students, and regardless of their location or circumstances.
To reach both students on campus and off campus, according to would be the best option. So I would like to post different posts and reels on accounts managed by Academic Affairs Committee and also the Associated Students handle. Apart from that, I would also encourage students in journalism majors and psychology majors to volunteer and speak to their peers regarding the concerns which they are currently facing in their academics, because always speaking to a peer is more comfortable than speaking directly to a faculty advisor. Apart from that, I would also ensure that there are Discord channels made, which becomes communication, which would eventually help them share their concerns. Apart from that, an anonymous survey on the Instagram portals as well as the website of Associated Students would also be appreciated, as their names wouldn't be revealed when they.
I'll allow a chance for any of the candidates to rebuttal. Candidates.
I also from Roy. So given that you have a very busy schedule with sports, volunteering, and other activities, how would you ensure that you have enough time and energy to devote to the Director of Academic Affairs, because that demands a lot of time and energy?
Well, that's a really good question, and thanks for asking that. Well, I took a gap of 5 years. Well, I did so many different things, and I think I became so good in organizational and managerial stuff. So even though I have like a really tight schedule, I still have enough time to go on Santa Cruz on weekends and lie on the beach. So that's why I really want to get this position so I could properly contribute more to the students of San Jose State.
Thank you, candidates.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to welcome the candidates for Director of Student Resource Affairs.
Just a friendly reminder to our candidates, if you can make sure to please speak into the mic and really project your voices so that folks who are watching us virtually can really hear what your campaign is all about. Okay, thank you.
For this one also, Sam, there's gonna be no rebuttals. So thank you. All right.
My first question for you: SJSU is a large commuter school with a large working student population. what steps do you think AS should take to ensure that these students take full advantage of available student resources and that they are aware of these resources?
To make sure our students are aware of the resources we have on campus, I want to first start off have AS continue improving on communication, making sure we continue using our email, text messages, our bulletin boards, and everything, and social media to make sure we continue informing the events and seminars we have on campus. Another thing, accessibility. I want to make sure our events and seminars are not just in person, but also online. So the commuters can join from home. Another thing, collaboration. I want to make sure we continue collaborating with RSOs. So not only does a student get to know more about the resources, but also with the RSOs we have on campus and feedback. I want to make sure we continue getting feedback from the students that attend the events so we can continue improving.
Second question I have for you, what student resources do you feel are underutilized and what would you do to change this?
I think our career services, our mental health services, and academic support services are pretty underutilized. And so to make sure these student resources are not underutilized, I want to continue having collaboration events and tabling with the student resources and the RSOs we have on campus, like I mentioned. For example, let's say we have a collaboration with an art club and the health center. Not only will the students learn more about the art club and see their achievements, but students can learn more about the health center and how we can utilize these resources more. It becomes a win-win event, and I want to make sure these students have fun as we educate them about our resources and how they can get involved.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you.
I would like to ask any candidates for Director of Sustainability Affairs to come up to the podium. Start over here. First question, do you believe SJSU is a sustainable campus and how would you advocate to make the campus more sustainable?
So this is not a yes or no question. I believe that we have put a lot of effort over the years to become a sustainable campus, but we still have a long way to go. And I will prove that right now. I want all of you to look around the room and see if there is anything wrong about this room if you think from a sustainable perspective. Anything else? I'll give you a hint. Look at the corners of the room.
Recycling bins.
Sorry?
Recycling bins.
Yes. So the fact that we're not actively thinking about sustainability proves that we do not have 3 separate bins like we should. And I will give you an example. So this is, I've printed out, and this is from a campus. I won't tell you the name of the campus, but it is the closest college from SJSU, and they have this all over campus. Only SU has a few recycling bins. Our whole campus does not have recycling bins. And that is one of the very small examples of how much we can do and how much we can change. Thank you.
Chance to answer the question.
Thank you for the question. I would say yes, SJSU had implemented few of the practices like transportation, like easy public transportation to all the students, and also some water conservation, like we have water irrigable soil and the pipelines are there. But I would say we still have a lot of room to improve. For example, even though there are some resources and tools, how are they accessible to all the students? Even if we use social media platform, that is not enough because only 6,000 followers are there, while we have around 40,000 students, including students and staff. So how are we being accessible to all the students? So I would say I would integrate technology with this, where we'll have separate section in the app for sustainability, where they can actually progress and see the activity of sustainable decisions. Thank you.
If you have a rebuttal, I'll give you 30 seconds.
What kind of technology would you like to utilize?
Well, since we have SAMI app, I would like to add a section in SAMI app where all the students can see what the director of sustainability is actually doing for them, what are the practices we are implementing, and how they are involved in all the activities.
Give you 30 seconds to rebuttal to anything. Pending question.
I'm good. Thank you.
Second question, I'll start over here. What ideas or initiatives do you have for AS to promote sustainability to students?
Well, as I just, technology is one of the major goal, and also educating and spreading awareness, because education is the key. When each and every person is educated and know the importance of sustainability and the impacts of and the consequences of the actions and inactions on the environment, definitely people will actually implement those practices and actually normalize the sustainability practices in the daily lives, I would say. And apart from technology and education, I would like to organize fun activities by involving all the students of San Jose State University and organizing some fun and engaging activities where students can actually do it by in a groups and in a fun and good way.
Over here, what ideas or initiatives do you have for AS to promote sustainability?
So one of the big ones is the BayFast. Only 1/4 of the students of SJSU has the BayFast right now. It was just a pilot program last semester or last year, and I want to make it a big program for all the students who are commuting, because we have a huge commuter population. So that will help with utilizing a sustainable transportation solution for all the students. The second one is increasing our recycling efforts, like I have talked before. Just a small step like having more recycling bins can help us to recycle and a better waste management system. And reduce energy consumption. This is a big one. We can use a lot of light, like motion sensors, right? Whenever we go out of the room, the lights turn off. These small things can help the campus so much. And the biggest thing is awareness. Everyone needs to be aware about sustainability. Students need to actively think about sustainability. And I want to promote and create a culture of sustainability on campus by just collaborating with different departments on campus and promoting sustainability on campus. Thank you.
I'll give 30 seconds for any rebuttals.
How do you prioritize sustainability within the context of AS budget?
So I think we are actually recycling and okay, so when we use motion sensors, we are actually reducing the electricity bill. So the whole point of sustainability is actually, it ultimately decreases the budget, right? Decreases our cost. That is how we become more sustainable. So just small things like this can help us a lot. And it will also make our waste management system way easier. When you have 3 bins, people are already throwing garbage in the perfect one, and we are not putting so much money and effort into dividing the garbage.
Thank you.
Any other rebuttals?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you. I'd like to invite any candidates for Director of Student Rights and Responsibilities to the podium. First question I have for you: how would you increase students' awareness of their rights and responsibilities, and why do you think this is important?
So my position as Director of Student Rights and Responsibilities directly relate with the Title IX training. I believe so. It's high time we should have some changes in the Title IX training. As a student, like I've seen, like we are doing the same Title IX training again and again, and to like increase awareness about the student rights, I think so we should add another section in Title IX training which will advocate for beliefs and practices of students on campus. So as you guys must know, like there was like a Sikh Kirpans resolution that like passed in the AS during last AS Board of Directors, in which like a student in library was carrying his religious symbols. So I think so that kind of things, the students should know about them and they should be aware of them, and like they should respect others' religious practices too. So I think so like by adding a new section in Title IX training would help increase the awareness about the students' rights. And I think so it's really important because each students have their own like each student should know about their rights, and they have like a voice on campus.
Second question I have for you, what are some of the biggest safety issues at SJSU, and what ideas do you have to promote a safer environment?
So I think so. One of the biggest safety issue is like homelessness around campus. I am a commuter student and I use public transport. And like whenever like I go past like near the library or like go to my bus station, I never felt safe at night. I think so. Like for that, we have like some good resources already, which are not that well marketed. Like one of the resources I use is the like A.S. Lift pilot program, which was like $10 in the previous semester. And now I don't know why it's reduced to $7. So I will be advocating for like increasing the budget for it to like $10 again. And we also have like a Spartan safety, like a car, like a car like that's like on the campus. So like, I think so we could promote that resources as well. So if like students want to travel like in between campus, they should know about like these resources are present on campus and they should like use these resources if they're not feeling safe.
Thank you. Appreciate it. For you, Fred. Now I'd like to invite any candidates for Director of Legislative Affairs to the podium. Okay, my first question I have for you, what Senate bills and/or issues would you advocate for on behalf of the students?
So if you guys don't know, currently in the California State Legislature, there's been an introduction of AB 1160, which is Protecting Students from Creditor College Act, which was introduced by Assemblymember Pacheco. This bill in itself would prohibit universities from withholding diplomas, transcripts, or placing students on academic hold for any reason, like if they have any sort of debt. It could be as little as $5, as much as a couple thousand. This bill would effectively prohibit the universities in the CSU and community college system from withholding that information, which some students might need to graduate. I know there's a couple of students who suffer trying to pay their fines, and this would be a good bill that we can promote and effectively eliminate that issue that many students have. Another one is SB 808, California State University Terms of Employment Settlement and Retreat Acts by Senator Dodd, which would prohibit universities from allowing retreat rights to people that have violated Title IX training.
The second question I have for you, as a student advocate of SJSU and local and state government, what will you do to ensure that student voices are considered and represented when making decisions that directly affect students?
So I'm currently a member of Lobby Corps, and a lot of what we do is attempting to do outreach programs with RSOs to get to know their issues. And I would like to continue this. I would like to get together with many of the RSOs on campus, as well as the student centers on campus, to help get to know their issues and effectively push that amongst our state assembly members. I currently intern for Assembly Member Ash Kalra, and with those issues that are being promoted by our RSOs and the knowledge that I would get from reaching out to them, I would be able to effectively communicate those concerns and let our elected officials know what issues are prevalent among the SJSU community.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I would like to invite any candidates for Director of Co-Curricular Affairs to the podium. All right, first question I have for you is, many students don't get involved during their time at SJSU, even though there are many opportunities to do so. How do you use your position as a platform to encourage student involvement or increase students' sense of belonging and conduct?
Yes. So a little bit that like what was mentioned in the past, San Jose State, is predominantly a commuter school. Being a commuter my first year, I understood how difficult it may be to, really connect with each other. You just kind of go to class and then go back home. So in order to connect with the commuter community, I want to make events that support commuters, like Commuter Appreciation Week. On top of this, I'll use our social media platform to promote any events that the programming board may host. It's also really important that myself, as the Director of Co-Curricular Affairs, that I'm there and present, and just really like being positive and like encouraging participation. And then being in an RSO, I've noticed that many events that we do host as A.S. can sometimes be like easily overlooked. So I really just want to make sure that we bring back like the fun and excitement of our programming board. Yeah.
How do you plan on recruiting students at large for the programming board to ensure the committee has different perspectives and is able to plan a variety of events? And what characteristics would you seek in students for the programming board?
Yeah. So if some of you don't know, the programming board is the biggest board in AS. So it's really important that I potentially use previous students that were in that specific board or in the AS. I think that'd be personally really resourceful. And I really want to emphasize teamwork and just really creativeness. I think we lost a lot of that during COVID. And also RSOs are a huge part of our campus. And I know they have a lot of student leaders. So really personally reaching out to them. And also probably one of the main things that I look for in like students, like for the programming board, is passion. I think it's really important to have students that really care about our community and really care about San Jose State. I personally am really passionate, so I think I would work well best with students who are also passionate. And I really just want to bring back like the school spirit and just the fun of being as like a Spartan. I think with COVID and everything, we kind of like forgot what it meant to be in college and stuff. So I really just want to bring back like the fun and excitement.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. I just wanted to give a little reminder to all candidates, and my apologies for not doing this sooner, but when you're welcomed up here as well, you guys are welcome to give yourself an introduction. Just say, my name is so-and-so, and yeah, thank you for letting me run, or something along those lines. But yeah, sorry for not saying that sooner, but we'll go ahead and continue on. Thank you.
Any candidates for any candidates for Director of Intercultural? If you want to give a quick introduction before I ask a question, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is B. Cazares. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, my name is Ariana Shaw, and thank you guys for being here.
I'll start over here. How will you promote collaboration between ethnic, cultural, international, and non-traditional student groups, which may include but are not limited to disabled, LGBT, re-entry, veteran, and graduate students? And what would this collaboration look like?
So I think one of the important roles for the Director of Intercultural Affairs is to attend board meetings for each of these groups. So I do my best to be attentive and attend each meeting and put my heart into addressing their issues. I've also been inspired to run for this role too. As someone who's Afghan, I've never had representation on this board. So I would take that solidarity with what I'm entering myself into and continue the work through that.
I would say for me, it's really important to have like a lot of different cultural groups together. So I would say from the beginning, I would like to possibly create a group that meets either monthly or every other month to kind of like connect with each other and just make sure that everybody is being heard and have their opinions and concerns voiced as well. Just because I feel like hearing from different perspectives always is really important.
Allow 30 seconds for any rebuttals.
So you mentioned a group. Would you consider like maybe the mosaic instead of that too, or would you want to establish something completely different from that?
I would include mosaic in there as well, just because there is a variety of different people that are students that are in mosaic. But I would say maybe just like a group outside of mosaic is, to me.
Rebuttals? I'll move on to question 2. I'll start over here. How do you plan to address or mitigate race and equity issues that may arise in the campus community?
For me, I would say I would try and, to my best ability, give space to the marginalized groups on campus to be able to have their voices heard as much as possible. And I would say to honestly just give them as much space as possible to take up, because typically with marginalized groups and communities, they don't get their voices heard. And so I would like to say that to just give them the visibility that they deserve.
So one of the primary roles of the Director of Intercultural Affairs is to also attend meetings and go over hearings of, I think, during the academic senate to make sure that no students are facing any form of discrimination. So I think that's something that I would very keenly put all my time into to ensure that there's no forms of discrimination. So above that, and then also I would like to encourage dialogue between centers as well too. Over the past couple of weeks, I've been going to every center and collecting information and data and surveying them to see what students need and if they faced any discrimination on campus. And I find that very important that I can actually be there in person and talk to them face to face.
30 seconds for any rebuttals.
Is there a certain group that you'd like to create or something like that? Sort of on the topic of the group discourse?
No, but I think I would like to encourage dialogue between centers like Capize and Block and Pride. I find that, and so many more too, along with the SWANA and Indigenous Center. Those are on some of my top priorities, really gaining awareness, making awareness on SWANA too, because I know the Indigenous Center just received a place on campus, which is amazing, but I think definitely the centers, because that's where everyone is. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Any candidates for Director of Communication? Come up.
Hello, everybody. I'm Demetrius Travis Rose. I am a current journalism major here. I transferred here in fall 2021, and thank you for your time today.
First question I have for you, as a Director of Communications, it's your responsibility to inform the campus community about AS services and programs. How would you incorporate technology in your approach to communicating with students?
Yes, so as the current social media manager and public relations chair of Delta Sigma Phi fraternity, I do have experience with running a social media account. And I see that, especially with Generation Z, very fast moving posts utilizing reels engages your audience. And by fast moving posts, I mean using apps like Video Leap, CapCut, Adobe, simple apps, easy to use, but fast-paced collages to really catch the eye of our fast-moving generation. Yes, and definitely utilizing TikTok and keeping up with what we as students are looking at every day on our screens.
Second question I have for you is SJSU has a large number of transfer students. How will you engage this community and foster a sense of belonging for them?
Yes. So as a transfer student myself, I feel that the most comfortability that I got and a sense of home in a way was during my orientation. We had the opportunity to go into a breakout room and meet people from our own area codes, our own areas. Me being from Los Angeles, I had the chance to meet people from Inland Empire, Orange County, and it gave me a sense of familiarity. I think if we would promote different areas and host events, such as like an event for Stockton, an event for Orange County, and just events around campus where transfer students can meet people from their own home.
Thank you, Nitris.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Nitris.
Thank you.
Any candidate, you're welcome to come up.
Hello, everyone. Myself, Hetty Kawala. I am a candidate for the position of A.S. Director of Business Affairs, and I'm majoring in computer science. Thank you.
My first question for you is, how would you increase student use of AS resources, programs, and services?
Okay, so first of all, I am currently the treasurer of Indian Students Organization, and I myself have faced issues with funding and the smooth process of accessing my funds. So for that, I would collaborate with all the stakeholders and the controller to discuss on this and make an efficient system and hire a team of people who can make this process smooth enough.
In this position, the director is focused on internal departments of AS. How do you develop relationships with the department's managers?
Okay. So basically, I myself, sorry, could you repeat the question again? Sorry.
In this position, the director is focused on internal departments of AS. How do you develop relationships with the department's managers?
Departments managers. Okay, so being the treasurer of ISO, I have seen the VP of social media develop relations with all even the president of our organization has talked to different departments, collaborated with different departments. We would take into consideration all the departments and speak to them and build relations by communicating our vision with them.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you.
Any candidates for the position of controller are welcome to come up. Okay, a small introduction.
Yeah, can I move this up? Can you hear me? Hello, my name is Idan Bilal. I'm double majoring in econ and business finance with concentration in finance and accounting. Yeah.
The controller oversees $220,000 in RSO funding each year. How will you promote this funding to recognize student organizations?
So to start with first, I've been doing this a little bit recently, but I want to especially broad span this, is to reach out to every single organization, recognized organization on campus, and to notify, to inform them, to discuss possible ways they can access this funding and learn how to use it to better themselves, because I think it's very important for the organizations like Cultural or Greek Live or sport teams to use this for their benefits.
How do you feel about the way money is allocated to individual AS departments? And how would you ensure each department is properly using its allocated funding?
I think currently, the current controller, Antonio, is doing an amazing job working with the 9 departments in AS to making sure the money is allocated perfectly. Definitely want to look into the history of the spendings and see what worked and what not, and making sure that money being given to these departments is actually being used, and if not used, making sure that it's efficient to spread to different departments for promoting them as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Any candidates running for the position of vice president, you are free to come up.
Okay.
There we go. My name is Safiullah Saab. Introduce yourself as well.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Ariana Loxon. I'm a second-year biomedical engineering student, and I currently serve as your AS Director of Co-Curricular Affairs and as the Vice President of Programming and Enrichment for Alpha Omicron Pi. Thank you all for coming today, and I look forward to speaking in front of you all.
Start over here. As VP, you are responsible for developing training for the board of directors. What experience do you have that makes you qualified for this role? What would you like the board to learn from the training you facilitate?
Being the current board of director, the director of academic affairs, I do have the experience of attending various in-service sessions, being in my current position. So I know the ins and outs of how the in-service sessions work for the current board of directors. I know what to speak about, what topics do they discuss in those in-service sessions. I'm also the chair of the academic affairs committee for associate students. So I know how to facilitate meetings, how the Robert's rules of order go, how to make agendas, and what professional and procedural functioning we should have in those in-service sessions. So moving on to the point of facilitating, what I want to facilitate into those meetings. First point would be to discuss the current issues relating to our campus problems. We have a lot of issues that we face as a campus community, and I think these in-service sessions are very crucial in order to notify about the board about these ongoing problems. Also, I will discuss the ways to collaborate with each other, with all the departments for advocating student voice. We have a lot of resources. The time's up.
Ask the same question over here. What experience do you have that makes you qualified for this role, and what would you like the board to learn from the training you would facilitate?
Yeah, Yeah, so as I previously mentioned, I am the Vice President of Programming and Enrichment for AFOM Compi. So I've had to deal a lot with compiling resources, facilitating workshops. We actually have one with the Career Center tonight, just to brush up on career development and professional development for my girls. And as the chair of the programming board, we meet weekly rather than bi-weekly in most committees. So I am very well acquainted with Robert's Rules of Order, Gloria Romero Act, Brown Act, making sure that agendas are coming out on time and whatnot. And what I want to see, or what I want the board to learn, there's a couple things that I wish that I learned. One of them being familiarizing ourselves with campus resources, including recently we had a tour with Capice, but I think that should have been done in the beginning of our term rather than towards the end. So that's something that I really want to focus on, and also just the career development and professional development of the board itself, because how are we supposed to serve you all as best as we can if we are not at our full capacity and maximizing our potential? And overall, just making sure that we're learning how to advocate, the event planning process, and overall, yeah, that's it.
I'll allow 30 seconds for any rebuttals.
I had a quick question. So you mentioned that we need to involve those on-campus resources. I believe they are still going on in the committees, in the in-surface sessions. So how do you plan to enhance those resources as they're already being presented to the current board of directors?
Yeah, so I think that this goes to say, towards the beginning of the term, I wish I was more well acquainted with the resources on campus. With the recent tour, I think that should have been done prior to this semester. So I think that if we incorporate more of like a tour at the beginning of our term, and make walking around to the different resources on campus, that would be much better, and inviting them sooner to our in-service sessions and our board of directors meetings. I think that we can also hear feedback from them as well, ask them what we could do to help them out in the beginning of our term, and make sure that we're achieving those at the end or by the end.
Any other rebuttals before we move on to question 2?
You mentioned talking about current campus issues and stuff like that, our in-service trainings, and I was just wondering what issues does the campus face that you think we should highlight right now?
So as a campus community, we face a lot of issues politically or individually, or some culture organizations could have any disputes that we recently have seen in the board. I plan to bring out those problems in our in-service committee meetings, because I feel like being the leaders on campus, we have to have a certain sense of knowledge as to what's going on around us and with our students, so that we can work for the betterment of our campus community.
Start over here for question 2.
Mm-hmm.
Part of your role as VP is to meet individually with board members, which may involve listening to challenges board members have with the school, their position, or each other. How would you coach your fellow board members through challenging situations, especially conflict that they may have with each other?
Yeah, thank you. I definitely want to emphasize 3 important things, one being respect, and open communication and accountability. With the new grievance process that's currently overhauling for the next board, it's going to be a smoother process for any board of directors. If they do face a conflict and they want to bring it to the executive board, it'll be much easier for them to do so. But I do think that it first starts with speaking to each other. How exactly are we supposed to resolve our issues if we're not talking to each other and we don't have this space of open communication? Making sure that we're all comfortable with each other, well acquainted, while we do work all together as a team, as a board that represents the students with policy making and advocacy and event planning. I also want to make sure that we're all well acquainted and honestly see each other as friends, because how exactly are we supposed to be comfortable with each other if we don't have that sort of sense of comfort? So as the oldest daughter in my family, I've definitely been the tie that holds us all together, and I've had to deal a lot with resolving issues. So I do think that I have the emotional intelligence and skills necessary for that as well.
Same question to you. Part of your role as VP is to meet individually with board members, which may involve listening to challenges board members have with their school, their position, or each other. How would you coach your fellow board members through challenging situations, especially conflict they may have with each other?
So being in the current board of directors committee, I really am in the position where I get to put forth my problems to the vice president of the organization. So I know exactly what problems a student face, be it personally, academically, or through the organization. I feel like the first step that we have to take, which is the most important one, is to create an official procedure for the same. As an individual, I don't think we have an official procedure for resolving conflicts. I feel like we have to make that procedure so that we have a basis and a template as to what steps we have to take if we hopefully not face a conflict in the organization. Also, I think some points as active listening, showing empathy, constructive solutions for problems, providing adequate resources to the particular individual who is facing that problems. Being the vice president, I have the access to a lot of resources on campus that I can lead that student to pursue.
I'll allow 30 seconds for any rebuttals.
Yeah, so you mentioned how we don't have a clear procedure, but we were introduced to a potential grievance process coming in for the incoming board. So I wanted to see, are you speaking about a specific process for bringing someone into the executive committee, or is this just a general before that step?
Yes, that's a good question. Thank you. For the grievance process, that grievance process is actually for filing any grievances or any penalties that the current board of director has faced. There's no actual procedure for resolving those problems. So grievance can be seen as a repercussion for doing anything wrong, but I am trying to impose a procedure where we take a step to actually resolve that problem without taking any professional procedures or repercussions for the same.
Any other rebuttals? Thank you, guys. Finally, any candidates for president, please come up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dominic Tressler. I'm a third-year political science major running to be your Associate Students President. Thank you all for being here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sarab Multani, and I'm a second-year public health policy major. I'm currently a certified nursing assistant and the mental health chairman for Delta Sigma Phi. Thank you.
I'll start over here for the first question. Can you expand upon your objectives for as president?
Yeah. So there's three things that I'm really focusing on through my campaign. That's increasing the sense of belonging of all students, improving academic resources, and providing cultural awareness around campus. So there's three steps that I feel like can make our school spirit and everyone's, sense of belonging here a lot higher. First thing I want to do is involve AS a lot more on matters around campus, right? So we have a current board of directors, we have the exec, but what I feel like AS could be doing more is simply being out there more, talking to these organizations, reaching out to these organizations, reaching out to classrooms, teachers, talking about ways we can get students more involved on our campus. A lot of international students, commuters, first years, they come here and they have no sense of like what to do, what belonging. I came here all the way from Los Angeles. I had no sense of guidance. I had no connections. I was quite frankly lost, right? I feel like AS can do a lot in that manner. Imagine at orientation, we come in, there's people from RSOs representing the RSOs, talking about how much they've changed, how much they've had growth, Secondly, I want to improve academic resources. Through my campaign, I've had the opportunity to talk to kids around campus about what they believe our campus needs to do. Some simple things that we can do to increase these is library conditions. Right now, our library, for some reason, is always a bit smelly. Oh, sorry.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about your objectives as president if you were to be elected?
Yes. So I hope to work with local, state, and federal government officials to really get some money going for our university, because I think a lot of the root of many of our problems, like affordable housing or parking or sufficient advising services, aren't because our university doesn't care about these things or don't think they're important to us. It's because we really need the money. So one thing that really I've been thinking about a lot and that comes to my mind is the Google Community Fund, which is going to be over $200 million provided to the city of San Jose to give out to many different entities as they see fit. And I hope to work with a lot of different groups throughout the city to create proposals for that, which helps students.
I'll allow 30 seconds for any rebuttals.
Yeah, so you brought up reducing student housing. What steps do you plan on taking to actually implement that? Because that's a big commitment.
Right. And it's not something that can be done in a year. It's not something that can be done through one term. But something that we can do is start these conversations with the city, with the university, about getting sufficient housing services for our students. One thing that's really coming up right now is the Alquist building. It's a new kind of student and faculty housing facility that's in the works. Won't be done by next year, but part of making sure that it's affordable for students will be advocacy next year. And I really am excited to do that.
Any rebuttals on your end?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, I think you mentioned that engagement with AS is very important, and that's something I agree with as well. But I wanted to ask what you've done so far to engage with AS, or
or do anything as far as getting yourself out there, getting yourself involved with the community?
Yeah, so like I said, I've only had the opportunity to be part of one organization so far on campus, and that was Delta Sigma Phi. Throughout that, I've had the opportunity to meet various cultures and groups around the community. I feel like the number one thing we can really do is increase our cultural awareness, right? We're in a community where we can greatly benefit from being able to talk to various different cultures. One of the first plans I plan on taking is making a calendar for all SJSU students, not only with important dates, job fairs, and like other, SJSU activities, but also cultural holidays and festivities, right? Recently, Holi was, celebrated by a lot of Indians, and I feel like that's a fun and, simple
Sorry,
activity.
that's time as well. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Start over here for question 2. What do you see as the most pressing issue facing associated students next year, and what steps would you take to address this issue?
Yeah, so Rob hit on this, and I think it's really important, it's the visibility of our organization. We do not do a good job putting ourselves out there enough, and by proxy, we don't get engagement with students, and that really hurts our ability to be able to advocate for them. I think one of the root causes for this is the accountability within our own board. Often our directors do not meet their responsibilities, and we don't have systems to hold them accountable. So I really hope to work with our Director of Internal Affairs to create incentives and policies for accountability, which ensure that our board is taking full responsibility of their responsibilities and doing their utmost for our students.
Over here, what do you see as the most pressing issue facing associated students next year, and what do you take to address this issue?
Yeah, so completely on pace with Dom. I feel like that is the number one problem with AS currently. We are the biggest organization on campus with the most resources. And I feel like our number one job, our reason for creation is to help other students and help organizations, right? That's like the number one problem facing AS currently. And I think the number one thing we can do, like Dom said, is just bring out these board of directors, implement policies that keeps us accountable, making sure that we're actually getting students' concerns and aren't implementing things on our own agenda. Thank you.
30 seconds for any rebuttals.
Yeah, so you mentioned how that is one of our biggest problems as AS. So you've been in AS for 2 years, and I was wondering what steps you've taken to get AS more well aware around campus.
Absolutely. So in my first year, I was a student at large, and something that I did was go out and recruit for our committee for Lobby Corps. I also did a lot of engagement around, our political space to make sure our students were well represented. But especially this last year as a director is when I had a lot of opportunities to table for our organization, not only for our government department, but also events, our Cesar Chavez Community Action Center, our garden as a part of that, and be out at a lot of our events. This last summer, when President Chuang was unable to speak at some orientations, I stepped in her place and was able to kind of talk about AS and all the things that we do.
Any other rebuttals? Moving on to question 3, I'll start over here. How will you facilitate a strong relationship between the administration and AS? How comfortable are you engaging in conversations with administration when you all disagree?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I feel like my greatest strength is interpersonal communication and team satisfaction. So I've had the opportunity to be mental health chairman at Delta Sigma Phi, and I've been in a lot of scenarios where I have to talk about uncomfortable situations. I have to talk about that with my exec board, as well as other students in our fraternity. A lot of these problems and things that we're facing, they're hard to talk about. But I feel like my job is not only in DSP, but what my job will be here if I'm elected, is to really be an advocate for all students here, right? My number one goal is to make sure everyone on our campus is heard and they have a voice. I want to be the voice that stems from all students. And there's nothing in the way that'll get that. I feel like we're all adults and we can all communicate and come to an agreement.
Same question here. How will you facilitate a strong relationship between the administration AS, and how comfortable are you engaging with the conversation with administration when you all disagree?
Yeah, so I'm a very diplomatic person by nature, and this has allowed me to already cultivate meaningful relationships with the university administration that has been able to create some change. So earlier this year, I facilitated a conversation between our board and the university cabinet, people like the president, like the vice presidents of our school, and we were able to create some really amazing outcomes. In a dialogue I had with Vice President of Student Affairs, Patrick Day, I brought up the insufficiencies of our CAPS department, how it takes more than 4 weeks to schedule a meeting. And as a direct consequence of that dialogue, of that meeting, we were able to cut that down to 2. So far from perfect still. I'd hope to be able to get an appointment within a day. That would be amazing. But it's just indicative of how I operate and how I, communicate with the university administration, and how I already have kind of a head start here in that kind of work.
I'll have 30 seconds for any rebuttals. All right, I'll move on to the last question, and I'll start over here. How will you consider and represent students whose experiences are different from your own?
Yes, so in the creation of my lobby corps this year, I made a very intentional effort to include as many students from communities that were not represented on our board. So Black students, unhoused students, Asian students. I wanted as many individuals to represent those perspectives as possible. And then when one of our students from the SWANA community kind of brought up to me the issues and representation for that community in our university, I jumped into the work. I even went so far as to talk to other university associated students to see how they have been engaging with this kind of representation. So this is the kind of thing that I've already done. It's something I've proven I'm able to do, is engage with students that from communities that I'm not a part of, and make a very intentional effort of doing that. And when issues are brought up to me, I take appropriate and effective action.
Ask the same question over here, how you consider and represent students whose experiences are different from your own?
Yeah, so in my experience at San Jose State, I've had the opportunity to meet all different types of cultures and communities. Personally, I feel like the number one way to really outsource these students' opinions and voices is by simply being face-to-face with them and talking to them, talking about what experiences they've had on SJSU and how I can further advocate and represent for them. For the majority of people I've spoken to, the school has been far from inclusive and half of what they expected. I know A.S. has done great work behind the scenes, but I think it's time for somebody new to step in with an external perspective. And that's why I wanted to run. I feel like I've had, great experience just talking to people about how I can make their experience better at our school, not only in my fraternity, but just in my classrooms with my peers. So I feel like I can continue doing that in a higher scale. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll allow 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of say how in your time at San Jose State, how you have engaged with people that are different from you and really done some work to try and remedy those issues.
Yeah, so I was part of the DEI community, breaking up right now. The DEI community chair at our house, and that's diversity, inclusion, and equity. I really aim to make our campus just as inclusive as it is for me, for everyone else. And the steps I've taken to just make sure all our students feel equal in representation, and taking steps that everyone is equal in having.
Any other rebuttals?
No, thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Everyone that was present. However, we're going to be accessible to folks who had class and midterms and everything. So there are a few candidates that came a little after their time. So we're going to open up to those candidates. However, they will only be able to answer the question. There will be no rebuttal because the other candidate has already spoken. So just let the ground rules. So all candidates who came after their time, can you please raise your hand? All right, so we'll go with the executives last, and we'll go.
Thank you. And you could choose either side. You go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody present here. I'm Siddhant, and I am standing for the position of Director of Communication. And thank you for all being here, and sorry for being late. So I would like to say that I'm standing for Director of Communication as I feel that I have enough skills and capabilities to, so enough skills and capabilities so that I can present all the students on campus and have their say in the A.S. direction. And all the events, like events at San Jose State University, have only 10 to 20% of the student population in them. So my main focus would be to create more interactive events and create a more diverse diverse campus so that more and more people could engage with themselves. Yes.
All right, my first question for you, as Director of Communications, it's your responsibility to inform the campus community about AS services and programs. How would you incorporate technology in your approach to communicating with students?
Yeah, so technology plays an important part in all the like managing of the events, which my position requires me to do. So first of all, the social media is the biggest thing. So I would try to make social media more interactive by creating more interactive graphic animations and creating live sessions and Q&A sessions, which are not done right now. So it would help students to create more effective bond with the AS. My another goal would be to have sessions with the alumni so that they could address the students' queries, what they all are facing, so that it could be easy for the students to understand what they are going through and have a back on their hand so that, yeah, so that they feel good. I would also do another thing is that I would try marketing through emails, which is not done right now. The events, so the email marketing will be another thing which I'll be more focusing on. Thank you.
My last question for you. SJSU has a large number of transfer students. How will you engage this community and foster a sense of belonging for them?
Yeah. So as transfer students, they would like we all had our week of welcome. So I would try to create their own transfer student welcome event and another event with all the students which are full-time students at San Jose State University so that they can have a bond together. First of all the transfer students could have a association within themselves so that they could communicate if they're having any queries in selecting courses and stuff. The second thing would be that, yeah, so that a transfer student would have a better, like not better, like same orientation sessions, but they would create be more interactive so that they could interact with themselves. And this another thing I will create is transfer student resource center where they can go anytime and talk to the other students and have maybe a better understanding of what they are doing, and it would help them to grow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to welcome up Drew for controller. So thank you.
The last questions down. After this, we're going to go to open Q&A, okay? If anyone has questions for candidates, it's your last time to write it down.
Hey, hello everyone. My name is Dravashne and I'm running to be your next AS controller. A little bit about myself. I currently serve as your vice president of IEEE and I'm also the current director of sustainability affairs. Well, if I'm elected as the next controller, I want to make sure that every student is represented. Every time that you pay your student fees, you pay $100 AS fee, and that money goes to AS. And we get $220,000 to give away to student organizations. And I want to make sure that every dollar that comes to AS goes back to students, right? Every year, we have money left over that isn't going to students, right? And that is student money. And I want to make sure by strengthening our relationship with student organizations, by making connections and marketing that money, I want to make sure that each and every one of you and each and every student organization receives the money they've given back into their pockets. Yeah, thank you.
My first question I have for you is, the controller oversees 220,000 RSO funding each year. How will you promote this funding to recognize student organizations?
So looking back at last year from 2020 to 2021, the next year, we have only been increasing the amount of money we've been giving to RSOs. Antonio, the current controller, he has done a great job to market that money and actually get it to students. And I know that this year we have almost given back $150,000 to students and student organizations, right? But we still have about 60, 70,000 left over. And using Instagram, and I know that we have, as AS, we have developed our TikTok, we have developed our Reels, and that has been going crazy. We have been getting 8,000, 9,000 views on each Reel. And I think that's a great resource for Instagram to market that money and actually get it back to students. So yeah, I would like to use all the technology, all the advertisement material that we have, our marketing team, and using Instagram to actually market that money and get it back to students. Thank you.
Final question I have for you. How do you feel about the way the money is allocated to individual AS departments, and how do you ensure each department is properly using its allocated funding?
So as a student leader myself, I understand that we all get 2,700 as a student organization spent, right? But there are always some organizations that are innovative, that are cultural, and they want to do something bigger than the 2,700 they have, right? And in the past, organizations like Spartan Electric and even other cultural organizations have come to us to ask for more funding because they want to do something bigger, right? And I want to make sure that the money that we have left over actually goes to the students, right? If they need more money, if they want to do something huge on campus, I want to make sure they get that money, right? So yeah, that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
In this next segment too, we're going to go ahead and take these questions that people have written down, and we're going to invite the candidates that they're directed at up here for the necessary questions. So yeah. And we're going to do, there's a lot of questions, so we probably won't be able to get to them all, but we're going to do a hard stop at 3:00 for when the elections actually start. So thank you.
All right, the first open forum question are for the AS sustainability candidates. What organizations or departments on campus would you work with to advance student sustainability goals?
I think it would be easier actually if I just brought the mic around. Yeah, I'll probably do that. So I'll just bring the mic around for Director of Sustainability. I'll go ahead and start with you, Mama.
Thank you so much for the question. So some of the organizations that I want to work with is obviously the AS Transportation Solution, because promoting the Bay Pass is one of my main goals. The others are the Community Garden, the CCCAC, the Environmental Resource Center. Apart from these, I also want to work with student organizations. I know there are hundreds of student organizations, and being the president of 2 and being in the executive board of 3 student organizations, I know the reach and the capacity of a student organization to actually help to raise awareness about any topic on campus is huge. So I want to use all the departments and the RSOs to create a environment of sustainability on campus. Thank you.
And Nate, could you repeat the question as well?
What organizations or departments on campus would you work with to advance student sustainability goals?
I would try my best to work with almost all the RSOs because when student organizations actually try to involve the student body of their particular organization, they get more involved, and we can actually track the progress and activities that they are performing on the daily basis for the sustainable campus.
Thank you. This is for the AS president candidates. How do you plan on supporting SWANA and Indigenous students at SJSU?
What was that? Should we just go to the podiums? Yeah, you guys are welcome to come up as well. And when we ask you these questions as well, you guys are free to reintroduce yourself again. Just like give a reintroduction of your name. So
again, I'm Dominic Tressler, candidate for AS president. As far as supporting our SWANA students, this is something that I've already begun to engage with, and I'm excited to work on throughout my presidency, is hopefully the creation of a center similar to how we have the block or, Capise for our Asian students, and just continuing to advocate. 3 years ago, there was no SWANA category on Cal State Apply, and due to some advocacy by students at CSU Fullerton, now it is. So this is a real movement that is going on throughout the system. It was spearheaded by Fullerton, but I hope that we can also be at the forefront of that and supporting those students.
Could you repeat?
Yeah. How do you plan on supporting SWANA and Indigenous students?
All right, so SWANA particularly has a lot of Brown and Middle Eastern students. And I feel like my personal perspective, I'm a Brown man, and I've really seen like the negative experiences of being Brown in America. I feel like firsthand, one thing we can do, like Dom said, is create a SWANA center. I feel like there's so many ways we can implement these type of things. There's so many rooms in the student union that I feel like could be used for these type of exact reasons, right? SWANA particularly, I have a lot of family from Afghanistan. I'm half Indian and half Pakistani. So it kind of speaks to me on a deeper level. And I really want to make sure if I become elected that I advocate for not only SWANA, but every other, cultural group around campus. Thank you.
Rebuttal.
Sorry, not a rebuttal. I just didn't get a chance to address the indigenous part. I do as well. But I just wanted to say it's really, we learned a couple days ago, last week, that the Indigenous Center actually got approved for their space, which is just amazing. And I really hope to, it's a really hard process. It took them 4 or 5 years to do, but really excited for them. And I hope to be able to support them throughout their creation next year. And also think of, ways we can advocate for that community beyond just the things that we're currently talking about. It's superficial things like our land acknowledgements, which of course are important, but they almost give us the ability to stop talking about that community. I hope to work with them to look for as many ways we can address their issues as possible. Like something I recently heard about was the fact that we use chiefs so often, like linguistically, like even our own chief elections officer. This is something that is probably like a little problematic. It's just something that most people don't think about. So I'm looking to look into those uncommon, deeply structural pieces of racism against that community.
Can I also give a second part of the answer? Yeah, so Indigenous students also fall into a category that many SWATA students do, and that's first generation, right? We have a lot of first generation students at San Jose State, and although we do have resources at the Mosaic Center to find resources to help us, because we don't have a lot of guidance, right? We don't have people that have been to college before us to just go there for guidance. I feel like San Diego State in the past decade has added a first generation center, and that's helped a lot of students there find their way. And that can include SWANA, that can include Indigenous, because a lot of those students in reality are first generation students. Thank you.
Question specifically for you. What makes you different from your competitor? And we understand you work with government reps. So what does that bring as a chance for you to be president?
Well, so I haven't worked with government reps personally. That was might have been a question at Dom, but
sorry, the question actually says, I understand he is currently working and works with government reps. So I think it was actually the second part was more so here, I'll repeat the question one more time. What makes you different from your competitor? And I understand he is currently on the board of directors and works with government reps. So what will you bring given the chance to be president that is different?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, Dom is a great candidate because he has had the experience in A.S., but I'm kind of on a separate argument, right? So I'm in an external perspective. I'm somebody who's been at San Jose State for 2 years and hasn't really learned much about A.S. until I decided I want to run for president. One of the things I bring is that external perspective, right? I feel like a lot of the students here can agree that a lot of the students at San Jose State see A.S. as like a high school student body, when in reality, it's much larger than that, right? We have the power to implement real change, not only this campus, but our community. So I feel like what I bring is a perspective that kind of tells A.S., hey, we've done a great job, but we could be doing a lot more. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm really trying to bring into A.S.
For both candidates, I'll start here. Our current A.S. president has been involved in initiatives surrounding Title IX, Day of Remembrance, and other issues. If elected, what issues would you advocate to change or improve?
Yeah, so just to note, I've kind of been Nina's right-hand man on a lot of those initiatives. When we learned that Title IX had not engaged with our students, me and Nina really pushed at a system level to make sure that these new Title IX implementations were being spoken to throughout the CSU. When it comes to Day of Remembrance, I also really helped her organize the specific celebration here at San Jose State and participated on a student panel to kind of discuss issues amongst young Asian Americans. Sorry, is my initiatives? Yeah, so I think something else that came up this year that I hope to work on a little more is our university's kind of inability to support students throughout Ramadan, which is something that is obviously really impactful towards student health during that time, as fasting, and it really hurts their ability to be academically successful. Is that my time? Yeah, it's just another one of those things that I've been thinking about and really hope to address and just meet the needs, the academic needs as many students as possible.
Could
you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. Our current AS president has been involved in initiatives surrounding Title IX, Day of Remembrance, and other issues. If elected, what issues would you advocate to change?
Yeah, so Title IX specifically is a problem on every campus in America. I feel like one thing we can do is directly get student input on what we could be doing, like what we could be expressing, right? What we could be talking about. So these Title IX meetings are actually effective. I had the chance to go to a Title IX meeting this year, and quite honestly, it was very unfocused. I didn't exactly understand how it was relating into Title IX. And I feel like some of the things we can do is actually talking about the issues real students face, students at this campus right now. I want to work with the legislative director of legislative affairs to figure out more policies and how we can reduce Title IX instances, not only on our campus, but in our community. Thank you.
And then just the last question here for Sarab. When it comes to endorsements, why did you ask Sigma Chi, given the context of student protest and the possible murder of Gregory Johnson, for an endorsement?
Well, so I can't ignore what's happened in the past, of course, but I feel like as we move forward, one thing we need to do is campus unity. And I've talked to Sigma Chi about these issues, and they're not people that have say no to these instances. They understand that we're in a time in America where we have to move forward as people, move forward together. I went to Sigma Chi initially just to spread awareness of my campaign, and they offered the endorsement, so I took it. It wasn't necessarily like I picked it Sigma Chi because I support whatever they did in the past. It was more to spread awareness of my campaign. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, you leave it right there. Next, I'd like to welcome up Ariana and Safi. There's a few questions for you guys. I could also bring the mic.
Humbling.
Safi, this question's for you. Do you have any experience creating workshops or trainings?
Yes. So being the current director of academic affairs, I won't say I really have an experience of creating particular in-service or training sessions, but I do have the vigilant idea of how I need to do that. But being in a very intensive leadership position, I believe that I have the required skills to host these in-service sessions and trainings. As I have been a part of chair meetings, I also have been a part of the academic senate as a senator, where a president and a director gets the equal votes. And I have extensively been involved on leadership campus opportunities. I would also like to state that I am the recipient of AS 55 scholarship, which means that I have determined and demonstrated the adequate leadership responsibilities. That's why I have received that award. Thank you.
For Ariana, you mentioned having past leadership experience in your campaign video. Could you elaborate on those experiences?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. Before I served as the vice president of programming and enrichment for Alpha Omicron Pi, I actually served as the philanthropy chair and curated a full week of events where we raised almost $16,000 to fund juvenile arthritis research. So I can definitely say that serving the community is something that I'm extremely passionate about and hope to continue doing so if elected to the vice president position. And beyond that, I also served as a site coordinator for a summer tech camp, and I oversaw 3 different campsites with around 14 to 16 students in each class. While battling that, there was also 2 other campsites on campus. So as you can imagine, 80 to 100 kids in one place is very chaotic. So working alongside parents while I just turned 18 is something that was a bit intimidating, but I've definitely got more accustomed to holding a leadership position and making sure that I'm being heard and represented.
Ariana, one more question for you. What are your personal goals as VP?
Yeah, so my personal goals, I have 3 main initiatives: mental health resources, diversity, equity, inclusion, and overall enhancing student welfare. Starting off with mental health resources, I hope to raise more awareness about the mental health resources we have here on campus, as balancing life as a student in other orgs, obligations, and overall also in work is something that a lot of students struggle with. So I hope to enhance those resources as well and make sure that students are utilizing them. For DEI, I think that SJSU prides itself on being a cultural campus. So I want to highlight and appreciate the cultural diversity we have here through advocacy and programming, and overall enhance student welfare by increasing communication between the student body and the board to make sure we're properly assessing all of your needs and serving you all as best as we can.
Actually, one more. What will be your next steps for solving a conflict between board members?
Yeah, so for solving conflicts between board members, I think the first thing is to really just make sure that there's communication between the two, making sure that they're sitting down with each other and really expressing how they feel. Full transparency and honesty is something that I think is super important, especially when solving interpersonal conflicts. If it does escalate to a degree, I also want to serve as a mediator with the emotional intelligence and the skills I've had so far, dealing with all different types of groups, both in AS and also in AOPI. I definitely have what it takes to really make sure that both of them are being listened to, both are being advocated for. And if it does get to that another extent beyond that, then we can also bring it up to the executive committee, which I'll be a part of along with the controller, president, and director of business affairs.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you both. Thank you. There's a question specifically for Idan Bilal for the controller position. So you'd either go.
Yes.
Um,
I got you.
Yeah.
Why do you think most organizations do not use their $2,700 to their full capability? And what will you do to help organizations fully utilize this $2,700 budget?
So as this works, as of recently, or when I was looking for endorsements and spreading my campaign, I spoke in front of different organizations on campus and discussing about the possible $2,700. Most of them didn't even know it was a thing. Most of them don't even know what AS does. And talking about it really opened their eyes. And my goal is to do that with every single organization to definitely spread that. Sorry, what was the second part of that question?
Well, the first part was, why do you think most organizations do not utilize their $2,700? And then the second part of it is, what will you do to save it?
I'll definitely work with a marketing team. So obviously, I said going to every single organization individually, and as well as working with the marketing team, as my experience with the position with historian for DSP, and as well with marketing and advertising experience for the past decade.
Thank you. Next, I would like to welcome up those running for the Director of Sustainability. There's a couple questions for you guys. If you want, I could bring the mic out too if that's easier, but if you guys want to the podium, you're welcome to. Perfect.
Right over here. What makes you different from your competitor, and what did you contribute to student welfare?
So since my freshman year, I have been a part of a lot of student organizations. I'm currently the president of IEEE, president of Global Students Network, the VP of SMTA, and I have been the peer career advisor at the Peer Connections and also peer mentor at the Peer Connections and peer career advisor at the SJSU Career Center. I have helped more than 300 students through one-on-one mentoring with time management, stress management, and SJSU resources. I have created a resource bank in collaboration with Peer Connections to connect SJSU students with the on-campus resources. And I have also been awarded the AS 55 Awards last year as a recognition for my contribution to the SJSU student body. Thank you.
Same question over here. What makes you different from your competitor, and what did you contribute to student welfare?
Well, I'm the part of ISO Club for social media outreach chief coordinator. But apart from that, moreover, about the other curricular activities in my undergraduate studies, I was actually required to be the part of NSS, which is National Schema Program, which was a sustainable program, which was compulsory at that time. So at that time, I just took it as another obligation, which I had to do as the part of my curriculum. But as much as I involved in the process and immersed myself in the activities related to sustainability, I actually got inspired, and I was introduced to more ways for the sustainability.
One last one for you guys. As for sustainability, we all just received an email that Spartan Pantry will be having limited amount of resources. How will you work with the board to increase the resources for the Spartan Pantry, as many students use this resource to survive?
I think Spartan Vanity is a great resource for a lot of students. I think one of the ways will be to find more local shops or local providers for food, which can be cheaper, and also to increase the budget for Spartan Penetrate, because that helps a lot of students. I think that is one of the things that I really want to work on, because we need a huge budget to support as many students as we can.
I'll ask the same question to you. As for sustainability, we all just received an email that Spartan Pantry will be having a limited amount of resources. How will you work with the board to increase these resources at Spartan Pantry, as many students use this resource to survive?
Thank you for the question. So yeah, so the priority, it depends on how we prioritize the things. So definitely SJSU Pantry will be one of the topmost priority, as most of the students use that resources. So we will definitely work with the organizations and local non-profit organizations, especially and aware them about the importance of SJSU Pantry to their students, and will try to take sponsorship from them and fund more importantly on this.
Okay. This question specifically for you. You mentioned how rainwater, how it works under the SJSU campus. Can you please elaborate more about how it works and how it could benefit the campus?
Just today morning itself, when I was coming, I saw this rainwater recycling pipelines. So basically, whatever the rain, whenever it rains, it collects the water and it uses the same water for the soil irrigation. So in this way, the water is not being wasted. But this is not established on all over the campus, but there are quite a few pipelines. But definitely, if I would get elected, I would use this more frequently and in more convenient places in the campus.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, I'd like to welcome up the candidates running for the Director of Intercultural Affairs. There's several questions for you also.
I'll start over here. What have you done? What have you personally done to establish a relationship with the Native Indigenous community on campus? And yeah, what have you done to establish that relationship with the Native Indigenous groups on campus?
So far, I haven't been active with the Indigenous community on campus. I just began learning about the Indigenous Center as I was going to multiple centers throughout the past couple of weeks and understanding the issue of what was going on. I have also been an advocate to replace Elizabeth Wise on campus as well too. I attended some of the protests earlier in the semester, but I've always supported the Indigenous campus besides the Indigenous community on campus.
Ask the same question over here. What have you done to establish a relationship with the current Native Indigenous community on campus?
So what I have done is actually attend a NASO meeting, which is the Native American Student Organization here on campus. And I was able to, sit in and listen to some of their concerns and really understand what they're fighting for. And it's not just a center what they're fighting for many different things that visibility on campus. And it's truly important to recognize that as well.
Keep it over here. Besides having a physical space on campus, are you aware of any of the other demands Native Indigenous students want? And how do you intend to act on those demands?
Yeah, kind of to bounce off of that again, I know that there's different demands, but for me specifically, I think something that I'd want to work on during my term is possibly taking the UC Berkeley approach of getting free tuition for those students that are identified as Native or Indigenous. Just because it allows us to kind of have reparations with that community, and we are on Ohlone land, and I feel like there's more that we can do than just have a land acknowledgement before any event.
Same question over here. Besides having physical space on campus, other demands Native and Indigenous students have, and how do you plan to act on those demands?
So I think some of the important resources that should be made to students include cultural resources, for events that honor their culture, along with academic resources, tutoring, even like counseling. I think that's really important for mental health, and professional resources to resume building. So I think those are really important. And then obviously I would like to learn more about other resources that are important for the community that maybe I didn't list.
I'll keep it over here. Do you plan to collaborate with RSOs on campus to host events, different events?
Yes, I would love to do that. I'm very active with RSOs on campus right now with her campus at SJSU, the Afghan Student Association, and multiple. I find the collaboration really important and necessary, and hopefully that can bring more awareness on campus as to what the Director of Intercultural Affairs does and resources that we can provide to them.
Same question over here. Do you plan to collaborate with RSOs on campus to host events for students?
Yeah, since this is my first semester, as I just transferred here, I am not too familiar with too many RSOs, but I'd like to familiarize myself with them, and possibly create maybe like a month dedicated to certain student groups, collaborating with those RSOs directly.
How have you been involved in your community and marginalized groups in previous to your campaign, and how will this help you moving forward?
Previous to my campaign, I was actually vice president and secretary at my community college. So I have kind of experience working with groups. Prior to that, for example, we had Undocumented Student Week of Action, which was an event that I co-led. And we also had a really important event called Microaggressions in the Classroom, where we basically led a student space to be able to air out grievances. And it was really transformational. And sorry, what was the last part of the question?
How will this help you move forward?
I just kind of want to take what I learned from student government at my CC and kind of apply it here, just because I feel like the experience that I had there with leading the clubs on campus is something that I can easily apply with this position.
Same question over here. How have you involved in community in marginalized groups previous to your campaign? How will this help you moving forward?
So I've been an active member of the Afghan Student Association. I've learned so many valuable skills in terms of leadership and taking initiative and just time management in general. So I'd love to apply that to my role as Director of Intercultural Affairs. We hosted the first SWANA Social last year with a lot of hard work with the Persian Student Association, the Arab Student Union, and the Students for Justice in Palestine. Also as well too, and we hosted, it was fantastic. It was a great success. So I was really grateful for that. And I'd love to apply the skills that I've learned to here and collaborating with other RSOs on campus.
And then last question for both of you. I'll start over here. The role has a strong emphasis on students of marginalized communities. Part of this role is also serving transfer students, handicapped students, and what are considered non-traditional students. How do you see yourself serving these students, and how would you ensure their voices are heard? Yeah.
So I know that, as I mentioned before too, the Director of Intercultural Affairs sits on many boards, and I would love to continue Luis's work too and sit on those boards and understand what issues are at hand, because I don't know as much as that. These communities are broad, and just attending and going to centers doesn't give me as much information that I need until I sit on those boards and understand.
Same question over here. Part of the role has strong emphasis on students in marginalized communities. Part of this role is also serving transfer students, handicapped students, and what are considered non-traditional students. So how do you see yourself serving these students, and how will you ensure their voices are heard?
Well, as a transfer student myself, I know that my transition was a little difficult to SJSU just because there was like, the only thing that we really have is like a Canvas shell. So if anything, I would want to emphasize work with the Welcome Center and maybe have like a space within the Welcome Center dedicated to transfer students to be able to meet with each other. And as my sister actually identifies as a non-traditional student, as she is a working mother. So I just want to be able to kind of highlight the resources that we already have on campus, such as the it's called lactation room that we have in the Gender Equity Center, and just highlight all of the work that's already been done previously and how we can apply it to these new students as well.
So going back to the lactation center, from what I've heard is that the gender equity center is also very low staffed, and I believe they need another programming coordinator to help them, because I know Bonnie is in charge of both Pride and the Gender Equity Center. So it's really difficult to have to show resources and when you can't even hold the Gender X Center open. So that's also one of my main concerns too.
Thank you to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I would like to welcome up the candidates for the Director of Academic Affairs. Just a forewarning, also, many of these questions are directed at you, Roy. So, okay, so just a forewarning. But the first one is to all three of you. So welcome up, guys. How will you solve the task?
I'll start over here.
Okay.
Yeah, get you warmed up already. How will you solve the task of academic advising?
Yeah, so well, I regularly in contact with my academic advisor, as personally I'm like taking 21 units and still maintaining 3.9 GPA, so I'm really extremely good at it. Why? Because I have a really deep relationship with my academic advisor, and one of the reasons how I do it is by email, but I believe most of the students struggle with that a lot. There's a miscommunication, there's a communication gap, and that we can cover. So I would focus more on connecting students with their academic advisor. Yeah.
How would you solve the task of academic advising?
What I think is that academic advising is a good resource for the students, but I also think it's lagging behind somewhere. We don't see, like, we don't have sufficient number of academic advisors, or there's also a kind of a time lag between students and the advisors, which may be a little bit problematic for the students when they are like trying to navigate through the academics. So I think that I'll try to have more number of academic advisors and reduce the communication gap and help students.
The main issue which students are currently facing is academic advising, because that's delaying their graduation dates by a semester or even more. And that's because sometimes the advisors that give set roadmaps that students have to follow, but they do not take into consideration the transfer credits. So it just leads to students repeating courses. So this would be done by, this could be solved by assigning like more advisors, and also from each major, there can be certain people allotted who can help the new freshmen or even sophomores in regards to the academic advising, because they've already been through that process.
This question is specifically for Roy. You said that you still relax on a beach every weekend, but the role of academic affairs is it requires work, time, and energy. So how will you provide these things for your role?
Well, that's a good one. Well, I will not go to the beach if I get elected as an academic advisor. Yeah.
This other question is also for you. Imagine that a controversy has risen over a particular course or academic program at the university. Some students and faculty members are calling for it to be canceled and significantly altered due to concerns about its content, while others argue that it is essential for academic freedom and intellectual diversity. As Director of Academic Affairs, how would you handle this situation, and what factors would you consider in making your decision?
Oh, well, that's a long one. Yeah. So as I believe, as the Director of Academic Affairs, if I get elected, it's not just me who will be working, it will be my committee, my people, my faculty members, and the students of San Jose will work together. If there are any issues that arise that people are unhappy or happy about it, we'll work together on it and we'll come to the conclusion. So it's not just me who's gonna make decisions that big, because it can affect so many people. So yeah, I'll work more with faculty, staff, and the students to solve any issues that arise.
Another question for you. I think it's another scenario. A veteran teacher has now become a senior and has become old and ineffective. Due to this has become inefficient at teaching and grading his students. They bring this complaint to you. What would you do as director to manage this issue?
So as I mentioned, that I'll not be the only one who will be making decisions, and I will have committee members and other faculty members who I'll be working with. So if most of the students believe that a professor is probably incapable of teaching, I will ask for the advice of other faculty members of what they think and what the administration think about it. And if everybody believes that it's good to have a more efficient professor who could teach the same subject better to the other students, we will proceed with that. But the decision does not entirely lie upon me, it lies upon all the people of San Jose State.
Last one for you, I promise. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So in my high school, I organized a workshop. Like I used to volunteer for a foundation wherein there was a transformation from for that organization's teacher. So they shifted from in-person teaching to online, and it was really difficult for them to adjust. So I was the one who taught them how to use Google Docs, Forms, and all other things like which would help them in teaching remotely. In the same manner, I would organize an online workshop for them, or even like an in-person workshop for the teachers who are older to teach them new techniques in which the students might now be more comfortable.
And I will actually go to questions for Nicaragua. If you were given the opportunity to design a brand new academic program for our university, what would it be and why?
If I was given the opportunity, I would probably I'm not a pro at this, so I'll take some guidance from the professors, or I'll also reach out to the industry professionals and the alumni and ask what are the demanding skills that students should have to give them upper hand in the job market. I design the curriculum according to it. I'll also reach out to the curriculum and research committee to see if the coursework is relevant and is up to date. And yeah, basically.
This last question for Roy. What you said about your performance for A.S. Director of Academic Affairs has been said by many people and has also been performed for many years. How do you think that you are going to approach this role differently, and what will that look like?
Sorry, can you come again? What was that question again?
What you said about your performance as A.S. Director of Academic Affairs has been said by many people and has also been performed for many years. How do you think that you're going to approach your role differently, and what will this approach look like?
So one of the things that I'm gonna do is first talk to the current Director of Academic Affairs, that's Saifu over there. And I've been talking to him that what are the duties that are involved. So if I get elected, I will not struggle that much because I will already have a mentor in front of me. I'll basically shadow Saifu and work with him initially so that if I get elected, all the duties and responsibility that I'll be given will be fulfilled successfully.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
For time reasons, and just for the sake of the election starting in 5 minutes, I'm going to walk around and do a last couple of these questions just quickly. And then once it's like 2:57, 2:58, I'll give my final spiel of, saying goodbye and welcoming this voting to commence. So firstly, I have a question for Michelle, running for Co-Curricular Affairs. First is, can you describe your event planning experiences previously, and what have you gained from your event planning experience?
Yes, so I was vice president of my sorority here, Alpha Zeta Delta. So last year I kind of had the ability to plan our formal, which is kind of like a college version of homecoming and prom. And also I worked a lot through risk management. So I did a lot of things, within my sorority that were Title IX related. And we are a social sorority and fraternity. So I did deal a lot with kind of dealing with like certain social situations. Also, I've been in student government for over 5 years. In high school, I was a big ASB kid. So I did a lot of things like through that. And also was president of my AVID club. I am a first generation student. So I did a lot of little things like that, but I'm finally experiencing AS just because I didn't have the ability to do so last year because I did have an executive position in my sorority.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Next, I have a question for any director of student or resource affairs, and this is probably the last allotted question I'll be able to give out. So, is it Ted? Okay, that's right. Sam, my bad. Sam, there's a question for you. Yeah. So, Sam, you mentioned mental health resources as an underutilized resource on campus. However, CAPS, the most visible mental health resource on campus, has 8 department cap per student due to high demand. By what metric are mental health resources underutilized? My bad. By what metric are mental health resources underutilized is the last sentence of it, but before that was CAPS, the most visible mental health resource on campus, is an 8 appointment cap per student due to high demand. By what metric are mental health resources underutilized?
So I described as mental health services as being one of the underutilized resources on campus because as I was going around RSOs talking about resources we have, I realized that our resources we have on campus, like students don't really know. So, and mental health services was one of them. So that's why I said mental health services as being one of the resources that are being underutilized. So
thank you so much, Sam. Thank you. And just due to time constraints here, I'm going to go ahead and cut off the rest of the questions that we have. But I appreciate you all for coming out to this debate so much. And the voting for the elections will start here in 1 minute, I believe, or in 2 minutes here at 3 o'clock. So once the elections go live, the QR code that is posted out in front, as well as the elections webpage, as well as our AS Instagram, will all have the voting link live. I just wanted to say thank you so much once again for coming to these candidate debates. And thank you all to the candidates who came here today. And yeah, thank you all for this election process so far, for coming out today. And we look forward to these next few days and seeing the results of this election. One change I wanted to mention real quick to all the candidates is that for the elections results party, the time has been changed from 1 to 3 p.m. to 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on the same day. It's going to be on Thursday, but it's going to be from 11 till 2 instead.